Good morning everyone. This is Parveen. Today we are on our first session of class 10 Civics chapter 2 Federalism. Now before starting with this chapter, in our first chapter we have seen power sharing, and to understand power sharing we have seen two factual cases of Belgium and Sri Lanka, in which we have seen that in Belgium there is no power sharing, and because of the majoritarianism, there was a big civil war in Belgium. But in Sri Lanka, there was a power sharing. The concept of government is based on power sharing, because of which there is a peaceful existence of the government, or peaceful working of the government. So, in our first chapter, we have seen that why power sharing is important. Power sharing is important so that there is no majoritarianism, there is no inequality, and the government will run fairly. So, in this chapter, in our chapter 2, now we will see what is federalism, what is power sharing, or you can say another word for power sharing is federalism. What is federalism? And we will also see the features, and we will see federalism in detail. So, before starting, first we will see what do we mean by federalism. As in our first chapter, we have seen that power sharing is the another word for federalism. Power sharing or federalism means when government divide its powers into a different levels of government, so that government can run fairly, or government can run country fairly or equally, or there is an equal distribution of power amongst these different levels of government, or among these different tiers of government. Like we have seen that in Sri Lanka, they have three tiers of government. That is state government, central government, and local government. And each tier of government has its own power and its own duty. So over here we have seen the same thing. What do we mean by federalism? Federalism means it is a system of government in which the power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. What is federalism? Federalism is a power sharing. It is a such kind of power sharing in which government divides its power into different levels of government or different tiers of government, so that each government has its own power and has its own duty to perform. So with the federalism or with the power sharing, it helps government to run equally, fairly, or to run the country easily, because power is not in one hand. It is divided between different tiers of government. That is called as federalism, where power is divided between governments to run the country, to rule the country, so that they can run the country easily, they can enjoy their own power, there is no interference, and they can run independently or autonomously. So over here, when we talk about federalism, the very good example which we can give is in India. India, we say that, or India is a federal country, or we say that India is having a federalism. Now, why we are saying that? Because India has divided its power between two tiers of government. There is two tiers of government, one in central and other one is on state. We have two tiers of government, that is central government and state government. There is two levels of government when we talk about federalism. In many cases, there are three levels of government also. That is central government, state government, and local government. We also have local government. But local government does not have has its own power. Local government is under the control of central government, you can say. Local government in India is under the central government. But when we talk about local government in different states, like when we talk about Sri Lanka, or when we talk about nowadays, when we talk about Belgium, they are having local government which has their own power. That is why we can say that they are having three levels of government. That is central government, state government, and local government. But originally, when we talk about federalism, there are only two sets of government or two levels of government. That is central government and state government. Central government is having a control over the whole country, or it is for the entire country. Like in India, we are having a central government, we are having a parliament in Delhi. That is the central government for us, which controls, or you can say which rule upon the entire country. It makes laws for the whole country. It has control over the whole country on many different national issues, or you can say national matters or national affairs, in which decisions have been taken by state central government. But central government is also divided between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. When we talk about the parliament, when we talk about the prime minister, when we talk about the president, cabinet ministers, they are all under the central government and they have their own powers. But whatever decisions they are taking, they're taking them in majority. So consent of all the tiers of the government or all the different parts of the government is required when we talk about the central government. So it has a control over the entire country and it has a national responsibility. That means whatever is happening in our country, whatever rules are there in our country, whatever provisions are there in our country, it is the responsibility of central government to handle it. It is the responsibility of a central government to take care of it. So central government works for the entire country. Secondly, when we talk about state government has its own administration in its own state. Like for each state, we are having a chief minister. For each state, we are having a Lok Sabha, we are having Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. For each state, we are having Panchayati Raj system. So over here, we can say that state government administrate on the state level. For each state or for each unit of state, we are having a separate government, and these state governments are having their own power at their own state responsibility which they need to follow. If anything happens in their state, they are having the responsibility. If any laws has been made, if central government wanted to make any law for any state, first it requires the consent of that state government. Then only central government can make provisions or make laws. Both consent of both the government, central government and state government is required. When central government wants to make any law or any provision for any state, consent of both the government is required, because state government has its own administration and has its own power, and central government cannot interfere in the matters of state government and their power. So when we talk about federalism, it is a system of government in which we are having two sets of government, or you can say power is divided between different level of government. That is central authority or state government. You can say central government and state government. These are the two levels of government when we talk about federalism. Now, when we talk about federalism, there are different features. When we see the definition, when we see the meaning of federalism, we have seen that it has two sets of government. One is on central level and one is on state level. And when we talk about the power of central government and state government, there are different subjects which we have learned in our 6th standard and 7th standard and 8th standard. That is unit subjects. Then we are having state subjects, and we are having concurrent list. Unit list, state list, union list, state list, and concurrent list. Union list, these are the matters on which only central government is having a right to take decisions. That is a union subject, a union list. Like defense, when we talk about the defense, when we talk about the international affairs. Then when we talk about the state list, on state list, state is having a power to make decisions like education, law and order, all these things on state, health. Then when we talk about concurrent list, in concurrent list, both central government and state government is having a right to take decisions like environment. Okay, so these are the different lists on which union and state government shares powers with each other. And many times it happens that they combine together, share the power. Like when we talk about taking decisions or making laws in our country, both state and central government consent is required. Central alone or state alone cannot take any decision regarding the provisions or laws which we can make in our country. So there is a power sharing, and as well as there is a cooperation among these levels of government. Now we will see the features of federalism. First feature, as in a meaning, it says that federalism means there is a two levels of government, which we have seen over here. Central government and state government. In federalism, there is a division of power between two levels of government, that is central and state. Central government enjoys its power on central level or for the whole country, and state government enjoys its power in each state in which the government is there. Like we can talk about in different states, we are having different chief ministers, we are having different laws according to that state government, according to the requirement of that particular state, because each state and each region has different requirements. Each state, see, as we have regional diversity, to cover that regional diversity or to care for that regional diversity, we are having different state governments, so that these state governments can take care of the differentiation of these different regions. So over here, first feature is two levels of government. When we talk about federalism, there are two levels of government, which is central government and state government. Secondly, when we talk about these two levels of government, these different tiers of government, we are having different tiers of government, or you can say two tiers of government, that is central government and state government. But these two governments, as we have seen, that they have their own jurisdiction, they have their own power, they have their own rules and laws which they make. They are the autonomous bodies, and they can make their own rules and laws according to the condition and according to the requirement of their own state. So over here you can say that these two levels of government has a separate powers to enjoy, and they have their own jurisdiction, they have their own decisions, and they, like central government cannot interfere in the matters of state government. One state cannot interfere in the matter of second state. So each state has its own government, each state has its own state government, and that state government is having a right to take decisions regarding the matters of their own state. And central government is having a right to take decisions for the whole country with the consent of each state government. So over here we can say that each tier of government has its own jurisdiction, has its own law, has its own function to perform, has its own duties. Third one, existence and authority of each tier of government is constitutionally guaranteed. Now in our own constitution, it has been written that the law has been passed, or the provision has been written that we are having federalism. That means in India we are having two sets of government, that is state government and union government, and each of them, each tier of government has its own jurisdiction, has its own authority, and has its own power. And each power of state government and each power and duties of central government has been there in the constitution. So the power or the authority which state government and central government is having is constitutionally guaranteed. Constitution has guaranteed them their powers and their authorities. State government and central government enjoys their authority, enjoys their power, because it is constitutionally guaranteed. It has been written in the constitution that they have these powers, that they have these duties. So their powers and the authority is constitutionally guaranteed, is given to them by the constitution itself. Fourth one, the fundamental provisions of constitution can be changed by consent of the both tier of government. See, we have seen in 9th standard, we have seen in the features of constitution. Then we can amend the constitution. What do we mean by amendment of the constitution? That means we can change the provisions of the constitution which we have. See, as time changes, the requirement, the political requirement, the social requirement, or the economic life, or you can say the society also changes according to the time. And as society changes, new requirements has been there, new matters has been there. So to cope up with those matters, constitution can be amended. But if you wanted to amend the constitution, 3/4 of the majority is compulsory, and that 3/4 majority is consent of both state and central government. If any provisions need to be changed or need to be amended in the constitution, it requires consent of both the government, both the levels of government, that is central government and state government. Like, let's take an example. If state government feels that there should be a change in property laws, or if central government feels that there should be change in the you can say change in any political law, change in any civil law. So if they wanted to change anything, central government need to take consent of state government and state government need to take consent of central government. Both of them combined together, if 3/4 of the majority in parliament is ready to amend the constitution, then only constitution can be amended. That means central government alone cannot amend the constitution, cannot change the rule, and state government alone has no authority to amend the constitution. If they wanted to amend the constitution, consent of both the levels of government is required. So power is not in the one hand. Power is divided between both central and state government. Next, court has power to interrupt constitution and both the government. See, now as we are saying that we are having division of power. Power has been divided between central government and state government. But we need someone or something to check on both the levels of government, or supervise on both the levels of government. That is why we are having judiciary system in our country or in any country. Judiciary is having a very important role when we talk about the check on or supervise on both the levels of government or on constitution. So it is in the hand of judiciary, or judiciary or court is having a power to interrupt constitution as well as to check on both the levels of government, state government and central government, whether they are working properly or not, whether they are using their authorities or powers properly or not, if there are any misuse of the power and authority from the central government or state government, judiciary or court is having a right to ask them a question. So judiciary is having a right to supervise the central government or state government and also check on the law of the constitution. Then next one is source of revenue for each level is autonomous. See, when we talk about the government, both central government and state government, they have their own monetary requirements when they wanted to run the country or when they wanted to run the state. So central government and state government has their own autonomous revenue system on which they can make the laws and they can collect the revenue from the public, like we are having direct taxes or indirect taxes. We are having service tax. All these tax or all these things are the revenue of the government or source of the revenue of the government. Excise duties and all these things. And these revenues of the government has been divided between central government on central level and state government on each state level. And they are having their own autonomous monetary system through which they collect the revenue and run the country and fulfill the monetary requirements of the country or fulfill the monetary requirements of the state. So they are having their own autonomous monetary system or source of revenue. Last one is when we talk about the federalism. Federalism is having two objectives. First one is to safeguard and promote the division of power, to safeguard and promote the interest of the country, interest of the people. Because if power is in the one hand, there is no safeguard. There is no freedom for the people. There is no freedom for the country. That is why division of power is there, so that no one can enjoy the power fully. And each of them or each tier of the government has check on each other. Judiciary is there to check on both the levels of the government. So it promotes or safeguards the interest of the country. And secondly, to accommodate regional diversity. As we have seen that we are having a regional diversity, each state and each region is having their own requirements. And to fulfill the requirements of each region or to cope up with the differences of each region, we are having state government on each state, which helps each state to grow equally. So in this particular session, we have seen the meaning of federalism. We have seen that there are two sets of government, that is central government and state government, and we have also learned the features of federalism. I hope you have understand this particular video or this particular topics. In our next topic, we will see. In our next video, we will see the next topic. Till then, thank you.